it upsets you, it upsets me. Okay? Ah.
National Lampoon's European Vacation is the 1985 sequel to the classic 1983 film that follows the Griswold family of Chicago, Illinois on another zany family vacation. Clark and Ellen Griswold, played once again by Chevy Chase and Beverly D'Angelo, along with their children Rusty and Audrey, played by Jason Lively and Dana Hill, all compete on a nationally televised Chicago game show called Pig in a Poke, hosted by Kent Winkdale, played by actor John Astin.
This is my wife Ellen and my son Rusty and my daughter Audrey.
Hello, Ellen. Hi, Rusty. And Audrey.
The horny Kent Winkdale being a veiled parody of game show host Richard Dawson. The Griswolds end up winning an all-expense-paid trip to Europe. Chaos and hilarity ensue.
Well, they've worked it out to the exact minute. You won't miss a thing, honey.
Clark, why don't we just forget the Pig in the Poke itinerary and play it by ear, like normal people?
Honey, we're not normal people. We're the Griswolds.
They begin their trip in London, England, where they stay in a rather shoddy hotel, and Clark rents an English car. His inexperience driving on the opposite side of the roads causes accidents, from destroying Stonehenge to running over a friendly bike rider played by English comedian Eric Idle.
Oh, yeah, I hate to bother you, but we're from the United States. We're staying at the Royal Imperial Windsor Arms.
Royal Imperial Windsor? Ah, very nice hotel.
Well, yeah, we like it. It's a little small.
Yeah. Well, you go back the way you came, and you just keep going to...
Rusty and Audrey seem bored in England, as Rusty can only find television channels talking about cheese.
Cheeses. Cheeses. No. Cheeses. No.
And Audrey runs up a huge phone bill calling Chicago to talk to her boyfriend Jack.
Who the hell called Chicago?
Oh, now, Audrey, your father didn't really mean what he said.
Yes, he did.
No, not really, honey. He has nothing against Jack. He's not really going to cut off his balls.
Upon their travels to Paris, France, they are mocked by a horny and disrespectful French waiter.
My femme would like the soufflé fromage. Et moi, I'll have the boil, the veal, the boil.
Je parie que votre femme a une paire de lolos.
Excellent.
Where would you find a waiter like that in the United States?
Honey, if you speak the language, they're going to be very nice.
They befriend a horny honeymoon couple from Ohio.
Hey, Daddy's got his hands on our tits right there at the table.
Stop staring, Rusty.
Rusty, European standards of public behavior are very different than in America's.
Yeah, Dad, but they're from Akron.
And Rusty befriends a horny French prostitute.
Russ?
The Griswolds' travels also bring them to West Germany and Rome, where more hilarious events unfold. Now, this movie was directed by Amy Heckerling, who had directed the 1982 iconic comedy film Fast Times at Ridgemont High. The first vacation film had been directed by Harold Ramis. Amy Heckerling and Harold Ramis would wind up having an affair, resulting in the birth of a daughter named Molly in 1985. It wasn't until Molly was a teenager that she was told that her real father was the famous director Harold Ramis. Harold Ramis declined directing this movie because he was busy working on Ghostbusters. While credited as one of the writers, the first film's writer John Hughes was actually not involved in this movie, and the film was written almost entirely by Robert Klain with input from director Amy Heckerling. The movie was produced by Maddie Simmons, who had worked on the first film as well as the iconic 1978 film Animal House. The movie was filmed in late 1984 in London, Paris, and Rome, and all of the scenes that take place in West Germany were actually filmed in Italy. Director Amy Heckerling and Chevy Chase did not get along during filming, and both stated that they didn't enjoy making this movie. Chevy Chase wanted Harold Ramis back, and Amy Heckerling was a newer director, then 30 years old, who was shipped to Europe to film across several European locations in just 3 months' time. The atmosphere on the set was very tense. Dana Barron and Anthony Michael Hall, who had portrayed Audrey and Rusty in the first movie, were originally slated to return. However, Anthony Michael Hall declined to star in this movie so that he could work on the John Hughes film Weird Science. Once he declined, the filmmakers decided to recast both children, which would become a running trend throughout the entire film series. Actress Dana Hill plays the role of Audrey, and the actress suffered from severe type 1 diabetes. The disease affected her growth, and she was often cast in younger roles well into her 20s. Despite her character being around 15 years old or so, Dana Hill was 21 during filming. The nightmare scene of Audrey having to eat a huge amount of food was difficult to film because Hill had such bad diabetes she had to avoid swallowing any of the food. Sadly, she would die from the disease in the year 1996 at the age of 32. Audrey's boyfriend Jack is played by William Zabka, best known for roles in films including The Karate Kid, Back to School, and the television series Cobra Kai, where he reprises his Karate Kid role. Eric Idle plays the role of the injured bike rider, and he and Chevy Chase became friends after working together on this movie. Shortly after filming, both men began working on a screenplay for another sequel called National Lampoon's Australian Vacation. However, other than a few shark gags, neither one could come up with much of anything, and the project was abandoned. Actor Rowan Atkinson was considered for the role of the Cockney-speaking desk clerk in England. The character was eventually played by English actor and comedian Mel Smith.
No, you're scuppered, mate. It's all gone reels of cottonseed, place full of macaroons. Of course, I'm cooking a dog and bone to my old mate Jim to spit down Whitechapel way.
Daddy's speaking English.
Yeah, I know.
According to his passport at the beginning of the movie, Clark Griswold's middle name is Wilhelm, and he was born August 8, 1945. Chevy Chase was born October 8, 1943. In this movie, the family name is Griswold with an A. In the other vacation movies, Griswold spelled with an O. This is the first vacation film rated PG-13, and the others would follow suit. It's rated PG-13 despite several scenes of naked women's breasts. There were a handful of 1980s films that showed naked breasts or had multiple F-words despite being rated PG-13. The PG-13 rating was new at the time, and many of those films would have likely been rated R had they not come out with the new rating in the 1980s. This is also the only one of the 4 main vacation movies not to include Randy Quaid's character of Cousin Eddie, nor does Clark's character have any dream girl fantasies as he does in the other 3 vacation movies. Despite this being considered the least popular film of the Vacation series by many people, and Chevy Chase's least favorite of all 4 movies, European Vacation was a box office hit. Upon its release on July 26, 1985, it grossed a worldwide total of $49.3 million on a budget of only $17 million. In fact, it was notable as being the only movie that briefly bumped the colossal hit film Back to the Future out of its 3-week-long number 1 spot for the last weekend of late July of 1985. Back to the Future would then regain the top box office slot the following week and spend a total of 12 more weeks at number 1. I actually enjoy this movie quite a bit, and I saw it many times going back to the early 1990s. If I had to rank the 4 vacation films, I would probably rate this one higher than 1997's Vegas Vacation. But I like all 4 of them. Overall, I'll go ahead and give National Lampoon's European Vacation a solid 8 out of 10 stars.